You know, one of my little simple pleasures in life is talking politics with David Heurtel. And lo and behold, that's what we're about to do. David Heurtel is on the line, former provincial Liberal cabinet minister. He's now counsel at Faskin. Let's talk politics. Hi, David.
Hi, Elias. It's a shared pleasure, my friend.
Now, let me tell you this, David. On Friday's program, it came out around 10:50 in the morning that Denis Coderre was changing his tune on alcohol in parks, right? He said, if I'm elected 8 p.m., no more alcohol in the parks, right? And that lasted all of around 2 days. And then he flip-flopped on Friday. And
flip, flop, flooba dooba bop, a flooba dooba beep, oh flop. Flip, flop, flooba dooba bop, a flooba dooba bop, oh flip.
So when he flip-flopped, I said, we need a flip-flop alert music. Every time a politician flip-flops, we need an alert. So Jay has found that song. So we're going to play that now every time there's a flip-flop. And it is catching on because I had a listener reach out this morning and say on Twitter, I'm hoping Elias Makos finds the flip-flop issue to discuss this morning. I love that song. So the first of many flip-flop alerts. I don't want to spend all the time in the world on this because, who knows, maybe you'll end up running in the race as well. But what's happening at Ensemble Montréal, Denis Coderre's team, and the sort of tumultuous last week they've had?
Well, last couple of weeks, right? Because you're looking at this issue and the cell phone issue, which should have been dealt with last Sunday, right? Sunday before last, and it lasted up until almost last Friday. Yeah. And now this flip-flop, I don't know, Elias. In my book, the election is on November 7th, and it seems Ensemble Montréal is taking positions on this election like it was next week. Mm-hmm. And every time, so the last two issues, the cell phone and now this, they've been basically on the wrong side of the issue. But it's not only the issues themselves, but the way Denis Coderre has been responding to these issues. And basically, while, we probably won't be talking about this, next month or definitely not in November. But what's happening is that nobody's talking about the change Denis Coderre. You've been mentioning it. Everybody's saying, well, no, it seems that we're stuck with the old Denis Coderre. And I'll be very curious to see the next round of polls. While I'm not sure this necessarily means that people are going to convert and vote for Valérie Plante, but I think maybe the undecideds are going to rise, and maybe people are going to say, really, is Denis really a 2.0 version, or do we still have the old guy? Because this is not boding well for him.
And do you think that there's a team around him that's helping him make these decisions?
There is.
There is, yeah.
There is a team. I know some of the people who are in the room with him, but the thing is that there's. In these dynamics, and I'm not inside the room, obviously, but in these dynamics, you have to be careful because maybe the team is telling him, hold on, because Denis Coderre is the type of guy that sometimes will, react very instinctively, and sometimes he has very good instincts. Sometimes he'll react very quickly, emotionally to an issue, and he may not listen to his advisors. That's also a possibility.
Let's move on to provincial politics. Arcade Fire now has more members than the PQ has people in the National Assembly. Sylvain Roy departing the caucus, the PQ caucus, saying, we have a schism. There's a schism between me and the leader, who, by the way, is not in the National Assembly. What's happening at the PQ, David?
Well, this is brewing. I mean, obviously, there's several elements in play. I mean, Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon is not an old school PQ member. He hasn't been around for many years. He doesn't know everybody very well, very personally. He's from a different generation. And Sylvain Roy, the Bonaventure MNA, has been around for a while. He's very well liked, very appreciated. And he's a former high school teacher, right? And so I think one of the many things that's been going on is that Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon doesn't seem to be very keen on consulting everybody before making, public announcements, just like Denis Coderre. And so I think this was brewing for a while, but everything is magnified, right? Because it's one thing after a leadership race when you have a big caucus But when you have 8 members, when 1/8 of your caucus is leaving, it makes a lot of noise. And the other piece of this, Elias, we've been talking about this for months, is that the CAQ is completely eating the PQ's lunch right now. All across Quebec in the regions, the nationalist vote has clearly gone to the CAQ, and the PQ is really facing existential questions for the next election. I mean, in 2022, you're going to face a scenario where maybe the PQ is going to be completely wiped out of the map, something we haven't seen since 1970.
If you're Dominique Anglade in the Liberal Party of Quebec, are you telling everyone, hey, everyone, give money to the PQ? Like, isn't that, I mean, honestly, isn't that a key to the Liberals having a chance, a resurgent PQ?
I mean, you're asking a good question there, Elias, but I think we need to go beyond that. If the Liberals cannot continue in that old federalist sovereignist dynamic, that's one of the major problems of the Quebec Liberal Party, is that, yes, I mean, if we were still in an independence versus federalism debate in Quebec, yes, you would need a strong PQ to divide and conquer, and this would help the Liberals, right? Mm-hmm. But now the fact is that Quebecers, even in the regions, even the Francophones, there's no appetite for this type of debate anymore. This is dead in the water. So the Liberals, if they keep harping on that type of debate, they're not going to grow with the Francophones, and they have to modernize. And that's Dominique Anglade's challenge right now. It's a huge one, but she has time to do it. But she has to modernize the Liberal message, because you can't be stuck in the past, just like the PQ. Because if not, you could risk disappearing, just like the PQ is.
This show moves in concentric circles. We go from municipal, then we go provincial. Now let's end off with federal. And it's something that we talked about on the Big Five earlier this morning, David, and that is the federal government giving a special exemption for the NHL to come in and out of the country for the final 2 rounds of the playoffs, where the Canadians, knock on wood, could be heading to the next round with a win tonight. What do you think about this, David? It seems, that the government's not listening to their science advisory panel on COVID-19 when it comes to the hotel quarantine. They're telling them get rid of it. Liberals aren't. How do you think the Liberals are handling border issues?
Oh, Elias, I'm shocked to see there's gambling in this establishment. What do you think? Are we really surprised that there are politics involved? We've been debating about these things. I heard you on the Big Five this morning, and there's a lot of issues at play here. One of them is that there's going to be an election, most probably called in August. I mean, Tom Mulcair is thinking maybe the second or third week of August, we're going to be called to the polls for a September election. And so there's definitely politics in play. And we're talking about the national sport here. We're talking about hockey. Can you imagine the Canadian team having to forfeit because it's not allowed to go safely play in the United States? Can you imagine I mean, all the points you raised this morning, Elias, I agree with. But politically speaking, can you imagine the Stanley Cup Finals without a Canadian team having to forfeit their games because they can't play in a bubble?
They wouldn't forfeit. They would just make them play all their games. And it'd be like, okay, next round rolls around, you got to end up in the U.S., and that would put them at a disadvantage, right? So
that's it. Yeah. I mean, remember, it didn't go so well with the Raptors having to play their games in the U.S., right? This was not a fun situation. So I think, yes, there's politics in play, but also the small group. I mean, you're talking about a limited number of players and staff in a bubble setting. I think it can work, but it contrasts pretty harshly with this whole travel situation, quarantine situation, which has been poorly handled by the government.
David Heurtel, how are you beating the heat?
I'm beating the heat by working indoors. Contrary to you, I have air conditioning, so that's how I'm beating it.
And it's getting a little bit warm. It's like 23.5 degrees in my place right now.
Good luck. I'm feeling for you, man. Good luck.
I have ice cream sandwiches in the fridge. David Heurtel, former provincial Liberal cabinet minister, counsel at Faskin, and always a fun guy to talk to about politics.